The art and media we consume either reflects our current mental state or it just becomes an outlet for the emotions we often feel on our regular day-to-day basis. And while I was watching the latest Evil Dead film, given the title, that was bound to give me the impression of it being something far less competent, Evil Dead Rise, I was made aware of how a horror film will present the atmosphere of a world dredged in fright and mystery, often before the events of the inciting incident take place. Now I'm aware that this is almost integral to building plot and tension and reminding the general audience what they spent their money on. Still, the frightening everyday world in which the characters find themselves in made me think of horror movie fans and why they're consistently putting themselves in an atmosphere of fright and terror. I started to think of the individuals I'd come to meet in my life and the types of media they surround themselves with, or lack thereof. In this video, I'll be loosely talking about the theory of the introvert and extrovert coined by Carl Jung, and how that fits into modern day media consumption. To start off with people that are more classically defined as extroverted, these are individuals who are more focused on external rewards. The ones that tend to be more happy-go-lucky and outcome independent are often not consuming as much media as people who are more focused on the world of internal feelings. But when they do, it's usually something with broad appeal that's going to be enjoyed by more people because of its familiarity, structure, and the almost near guarantee of satisfaction. A simple promise of reward with little time or emotional investment. For example, they would listen to songs that would be more typically found on top 100 lists, classic and rhythmic melodies that most people wouldn't argue against the catchiness. They might wear more general and casual clothing that doesn't scream for attention and request to blend into the crowd. The films they would watch would be something with universal appeal. These are your Marvel films, your Disney films, and other big budget box office hits. These individuals are more prone to playing video games and participating in physical activities such as sports. And now I'm sure you can place a couple people in your mind that exemplify this archetype I just laid out. But if it feels like I'm generalizing, well, that's because I am. All in all, I'm just trying to lay out someone who doesn't place a lot of significance and energy in art, but instead uses that energy to find reward and stimulation in the physical world, whether that's socializing with other people or accomplishing tasks in work life. But when they do find time for consuming art, it's something that's almost a guarantee to be fun and rewarding, an item that promises to hit all the beats of enjoyment for quick comfort. Now, on the other hand, for the inverse, these would be your introverts, which would be almost the exact opposite. Now, these are individuals who are more focused on the interoceptive process of the body, where the feelings are too strong to see past and pay attention to the world around them. These are your individuals who are classically more sensitive to negative emotion, having more interest and time to pursue creative endeavors, journaling, drawing, poetry, music, and other more niche hobbies. Now, given my opening statement of the art we surround ourselves with mirroring our internal conflict, someone sensitive to negative emotion would be more likely to be involved in the macabre and transgressive art. And there are whole genres and aesthetics of music based on this idea. Punk, emo, goth, and heavy metal are all personifications of the negative emotions that the creators are feeling. And they feel these emotions to such an extent that they wish to make a career out of it. Now let's get back to Evil Dead Rise. Horror films on average exist to represent societal and individual fears, be warnings, and shed light on specific dangers in our daily lives. The best horror films aren't just a well-constructed plot with some great cinematography and creepy sounds, but they'll also present a tilted reality of something that exists in humanity. Whether that be the personification of fear itself in a creature manifested by negative emotions that most are acutely aware of. Horror films are the most sincere adaptations of negative emotions, and there's no horror film that isn't derived from a feeling rooted in negativity. Because of this, it makes for the favorite genre of the neurotic types. What makes a genre someone's favorite is watching characters traverse through situations that are similar to ours, whether that be symbolic traversal in the scope of a grand journey through space and time, or a literal representation of conflict, maybe in the form of a down-on-their-luck protagonist who needs to understand the dynamics of his daily life, i.e. situational drama. And I hypothesize that horror is doing the same thing, just on a much more dramatic scale. It's not too outlandish that someone suffering from an extreme flood of negative emotions would find some catharsis by watching someone in a similar situation. And the best way that the fear and sadness can be materialized is in the form of getting chased by a chainsaw-wielding madman while we run through the woods crying, or fighting to hold on to a religion as our daughter remains a vessel for a demonic being. Not only does horror reflect common fears of the public, but they can also be a great therapeutic tool when part of a painful and paralyzing emotion. Next time you consume some media, consider what that media says about you and your current state. Think about the media you consume on average and what the type of atmosphere and mood you surround yourself with. It could say something about how you operate in the world that maybe just hasn't come to light yet. But that being said, your media consumption doesn't by any means define who you are, and it's extremely dangerous to get the material and superficial aspects of culture wrapped up into a perception of the self. You are far more complex of a person to be simply defined by a genre of music, style of clothing, or even a career. All of these aspects are just additions to the self, and they do say something about the individual, but they don't say what the individual is. That's something that takes a lifetime, but we can only get there if we take a step and reflect on the things that we allow into our world, whether that world is internal or external.